Hello and welcome back to the Get Stuck In podcast. I'm back with Sam once again. We've got another guest on this week, and it's Jack, and he's a Chelsea fan. We're going to be going through the Champions League games from this week, touch on Liverpool Arsenal last weekend, and look forward to the second legs. And then after that, we'll do our questions as per usual. So, Sam, there's only one place to start. The Champions League was back. What was your highlight of the week?
Well, I know what Jack's highlight was, but I think before we get to that game, which obviously, great result and all that, we will cover that. I think there is one place to start. I think Twitter was just filled with pictures of Kylian Mbappe in the snow in Munich. It was like watching something from Goal. Like the whole game was just insane. Snow. I don't know why. I don't think I've ever seen snow in a Champions League game, other than maybe in like a Russian group stage match. And I mean, yeah, that PSG kit, the white kit, Mbappe on fire. Neymar. I mean, to be fair, like obviously Mbappe got the goals, but I think a lot of people have been saying that Neymar was just unreal and sort of really showed it on the biggest stage. But yeah, I think that has to be the highlight. I think people have questioned PSG's ability to do it at this level or at the top, and at least in this first leg, they've showed they can. Um, yeah, I mean, I can't look past that game. How do you see the rest of the tie heading, Jack? Given the three away goals for PSG.
Well, I think that it's obviously going to be really difficult for Bayern now because with the three away goals, especially with how it's gone in the last few rounds and with away goals, and like you look to Juve and Porto and how key it was in that game. So I feel like I don't think Bayern will get away with a clean sheet against PSG in the second leg. I feel like with PSG's attacks and the way that Mbappe and Neymar are playing right now, I don't see them not scoring. So I think it's a pretty much set in stone that PSG are going to get through Bayern, which is a massive shock if you would have asked anybody at the start. I'm pretty sure they were favourites going into that game, although they didn't have Lewandowski. So, but yeah, I can't see it going any other way other than PSG right now.
It's really the season of expected goals with all those stats flying about because Bayern dominated the whole game, and yeah, PSG came out on top once again. It just proves how lethal Mbappe is on the break, and I think Neymar proved his worth to that PSG side once again. I think he takes a lot of heat from a lot of people about different issues, but he proved to everyone again how good he is throughout that game.
Yeah, he's ridiculous. Did you see that the Neymar pass for the Marquinhos goal?
Yeah,
It was absolutely ridiculous.
yeah. I think the thing about you talk about the expected goal stuff. I think it's the second Mbappe goal. Obviously, the first one was a bit of a sort of questionable finish, not the best save from Neuer. But the second Mbappe goal, the thing I sort of find terrified about is all his goals to date tend to be like unreal or just his pace getting him one on one or whatever. That was like obviously it's a great goal, but it's also just like lethal. It's just clinical. It wasn't a finesse into the top corner he takes on 5 men. It was just like you gave him an inch and he just scores. And I think he's really sort of matured now into that. I think he is the guy now, although Neymar had a great game. I think surely, I mean, he's on the cover of FIFA now, which says a lot. And I think he's finally, not I say finally, he's 22, but he's stepping up now. But yeah, I mean, Jack, you say you think it's game done. Does your opinion change if Lewandowski's available for the second leg?
See, I always think Bayern can score goals. Obviously, they got two and they dominated the game. So I do think that they can get goals. It's more the fact of if they can stop PSG putting more on them,
Yeah,
because I can see them easily like putting two or three past them in the second leg. But it's just whether or not they can stop Mbappe and Neymar. Because at the
yeah,
moment, like they're flying. I'm pretty sure Mbappe is like top goal scorer in Ligue 1. And obviously I didn't catch much of the game because obviously the biggest game
yeah.
was the other game. But but yeah, I still think PSG. Anything could happen still. Bayern are a class team, but they definitely need to find a way to stop it. I think if Lawan comes back, it'll be a massive boost for their team. And I feel like there are goals to be had in the next leg, but I can't see PSG balling this one.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's weird to think that a Bayern team is being looked at. And I completely agree with you that a Bayern team is being considered like vulnerable at the back and leaky because, like, obviously they have great attacking players down the years, but their defense or their solidness as a whole unit is just insane. And like Sula, it was just hard to watch sometimes when Mbappe just sort of jogged past him. Obviously, they brought Boateng on, who's getting on a bit now. So I agree. I think if we was sort of to make predictions, I agree. I think it's going to be another goal heavy game. I think it's going to end up being a 1-1. I think PSG are going to win 2-1. Actually, I think you're right. I think Bayern are going to have to go for it so much, and PSG are going to be just leaf on the break. So if we had to go predictions, I'm going 2-1 PSG. Max, what are you saying?
I'm more inclined to Bayern still going through because I think
Wow.
they get Gnabry back as well. Hopefully, for the
True.
second leg.
Yeah,
So,
that's very true.
even if Lewandowski's not back, they've still got a man coming back into the frame who's a fantastic finisher most of the time. So,
I mean, Champions League especially, he seems to turn up.
yeah,
He
yeah,
loves
he
a
does.
Champions League goal.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure how much of an impact it will have because considering the issues for Bayern seem to be at the back. I know they couldn't finish their chances, but they really, really need to tighten it up because with the amount they dominated the game, it doesn't seem right that they should give up those particular goals on the transition. So I think Bayern will go through. I think like you, it will be a bit of a goal fest, but I don't think PSG have it in them. I really don't. I think most people can agree that if Barca had actually took their chances in the second leg at the round of 16, they had a chance of doing what they did to them 3 or 4 years ago. So
yeah,
I just I don't think PSG have the bottle in a second leg, and I don't think it's over by any means. I just think Bayern are the way more experienced team and just can handle it a lot better than PSG.
if you had to slap a score on it, what are you going for?
I would go 3-1 Bayern.
I mean, it's like
Bold.
the Porto prediction all over again, which came through.
Yeah.
So what are you saying then? Obviously, you said you're back in PSG.
Yeah, I don't think Bayern are completely out of it. I don't think it's a guarantee that PSG will go through because of given how they've been the last couple of years in like round of 16 and quarterfinals. So I still think there's going to be goals, like both you said. I still think that it's going to be a goal heavy game. If I had to put a prediction on it, I reckon it will probably end 2-2. I reckon it might end in a draw just because of it's all dependent on if Bayern can take their chances. Because obviously they dominated the first game, and if either of Lewandowski or Gnabry's back, who knows what can happen. So yeah, I think I'm gonna play it safe and go 2-2 draw.
It's not a bad shout. So there was obviously 3 other games. If we'll go to the same game from the same night. We've got a Chelsea fan on, so it's only right. Chelsea. It wasn't in Porto, was it? It wasn't in Seville. The game.
Yeah, it was in Seville.
Yeah. 2-0 win. It was Mount and Chilwell. Mount's turn before we talk about anything else. I had both games on, Bayern on the TV, Chelsea on my laptop. And like I'm half trying to watch Chelsea, and at one point something just catches my eye, and it's just Mount spinning his man. And the finish is so good. He's not sort of in the like fully in the box, complete 1-on-1. He's a good distance out, and it's so precise. And you held out. So, like I said, I wasn't paying full attention. From what I sort of heard about it, am I right in saying that you not necessarily lucky, but you were sort of defending a lot of the game?
Yeah, to be fair, from the off, they sort of took it to us, which I don't think we really expected. And I think most Chelsea fans underestimated Porto and thought like obviously, like most people, that we kind of had the easier draw. But you can't forget that they did just knock out Ronaldo and Juve in the Champions League, so they are a force to be reckoned with. Yeah, they definitely took it to us in the first half. They had way more chances. We obviously had way more of the ball. I felt like we do with most games. Under Tuchel, we like to keep the ball and sort of retain and try and pick our chances when we can. But yeah, we literally, I think the first half, our only shot was the infamous world class turn and finish from arguably our best player of the season. So yeah, and then second half, I think it was just about controlling the rest of the game. I think their best chances came in the first half, and if we could get through to the second half, a goal up or even 0-0, we were in a good position with obviously everyone that we had on our bench, because we didn't even start Kante. We had a few like really good defenders, and obviously super sub Olivier Giroud to come on as well. And then yeah, the goal pretty much came out of nowhere, the Chilwell goal, because it was sort of even. We kept the ball, didn't really have too many chances leading up to that point, and then out of nowhere, Torres reborn decided to take it around the keeper and pretty much, well, I would say seal the tie, but you know, anything can happen. I feel like defensively we've just been brilliant under Tuchel. Obviously we had that hiccup with West Brom, which I'm not going to talk about in this podcast because I feel like it's a robbery, it's a disgrace. but yeah, I think like we've been very defensively sound, even with the mistakes that we've had in past times with our goalkeepers. I feel like Mendy's done really well recently. He's kept a lot of clean sheets, and I feel like with Thiago Silva now back, and hopefully he can get a good run of games now, we should get through the next round.
Yeah, I think I have Chelsea going through as well at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't watch a lot of the Porto Chelsea game, but from what I could tell, it seemed like like you said, a slightly fortunate scoreline maybe, considering how much Porto were attacking you. But I mean, I think Chilwell's second goal virtually has you through to the semis. I don't see why you'd falter so badly that you go out in the second leg. But stranger things have happened. But yeah, I'd have Chelsea going through for sure. I think that's one of probably the most settled tied out of the four.
We seem to talk about England in every single podcast, but does this game make Mount? I guess I mean I think I've been seeing people saying, is he now a guaranteed starter? But is he 100,000%? Even if he wasn't already, is he now definitely going? And for you, is he starting? I'll go to Max on that one.
He's definitely going. I mean, I don't see any world where Southgate leaves him out if he's fit. As to whether he starts, I just don't think there's a place for him at the moment, because not because he doesn't deserve a place, but because if Southgate goes with his standard five at the back, there's only 5 more positions on the pitch. So with the amount of attacking talent we have, he's going to play a 2 and a 3. So it's likely going to be Rice in there with possibly Henderson. That's the only position I think he can make his way in. I don't see him starting in any of the forward 3, because I think they're going to be occupied by the likes of Kane, Sterling, Rashford, Sancho, whoever, Foden and Grealish. So for me, I don't see him starting as good as he's been. I think it's a shame, but there doesn't seem to be a place for him, I don't think, right now in the current system that Southgate plays.
Yeah,
I mean, Jack, I don't even know if I have to ask you this question, but would you start Mason Mount in the
Euros? It's all dependent on the system that Southgate wants to play, and whether or not players are in form. You never know, Mason Mount could drop off these last couple of months leading up to the Euros, and like people like Foden and other players can always slide in and make a start for themselves. But I feel like at this moment in time, he's 100% on the plane it all depends on Southgate's system. I feel like Mount's been allowed the freedom to attack more. He's not really been playing sort of like the heart of the midfield like he did under Lampard. He still thrived under Lampard and he still played really well, but I feel like he's sort of been going just behind the striker on the left and the right. I feel like he can play in the midfield, he can play on the wing, he can play sort of just behind the striker. He's a perfect number 8 for at the moment for England. So it's all dependent. But if I'm Southgate, I'm starting him. It doesn't matter who's his competition right now. He's a brilliant player and he's got so much potential. And I feel like he's definitely somebody that needs to be on the pitch at the start. I mean, sometimes Chelsea have brought him on and he's been sort of an impact, but I feel like he grows into the game. And if you give him the time to start him and let him be free in the attack, then he can definitely make chances. And I just want to see him next to Grealish because I feel like that partnership could be quite good for England.
So you're basically saying, as long as Saka and Mount start, we're fine.
Oh yeah, of course. So.
We will not talk about Arsenal until later on when we absolutely have to, and that will be very short. Going back to the Chelsea game, you mentioned the Torres reborn joke. Isn't there? I think I've seen it a few times. This thing that didn't you like lose to West Brom, the Torres goal?
Oh, the 2012 thing.
And a lot of things line up.
So it was what was it? We got a Portuguese opposition in the quarterfinals. We've obviously been drawn the winner of Real Madrid versus Liverpool, and we also had a Spanish opposition in the semi-finals. I can't remember what the other one was, but then it was that we lost to West Brom that season too. So the stars are aligning.
Wasn't the other one the like sacking a young manager?
Yeah, sacking a young manager.
Do you think if we go, obviously this is going to be a lot of hypotheticals, but how far do you think you're going? If we, I think we're all kind of in agreement. You've probably got through this round, and obviously we'll talk about who your opponent's going to be in the next game. But where do you see yourself? I mean, I wouldn't put you as favourites for the whole thing. I mean, PSG especially looking good. Bayern have got it in them. Man City. Where do you see yourself? Obviously, you've got that side of the draw where you won't hit them until the final. How far do you think Tuchel can take you in this?
I don't want to discredit Porto. I don't want to look past them, but I feel like in if we're talking hypothetical and we don't bottle the draw and we get through Porto, we've obviously got the winner of Liverpool, Madrid, and I feel like that tie, obviously we'll probably speak about, but I feel like that's swaying towards Madrid. But then again, obviously anything can happen at Anfield. So if we can get past the semis, I feel like we are going to have... I feel like PSG will be in the final. I don't think Man City are going to get past Dortmund, if I'm going to be honest.
Blimey.
Wow.
That's going to be a big prediction when we come to that.
Yeah. So anything can happen. I feel like we could go all the way. We could... Everyone sort of discounted us after this West Brom result on the weekend and thought, well, we're going to Porto and we've got to put up a better performance than we did on the weekend, and it was a brilliant performance. So I genuinely do. I'm not just saying it as a Chelsea fan thinking, oh, we can do it. Like, I think we've got more of a chance of doing it now than we did back in 2012. So
yeah,
who knows?
I mean, Max, like, if we bring in your game now, the first leg was 3-1 at home to Real Madrid against Liverpool. Before we come to whether you think you can get through, if you were, let's say hypothetical, you pull it after you come back, how would you see that Chelsea Liverpool semi-final going? Do you think they beat in the league recently, didn't they, with another Mount goal? Do you think Chelsea are a superior team at the moment to Liverpool with all your injury issues?
They're definitely in better form on the whole. I know they had that blip against West Brom, but they are playing better than us. That's been evident for about a month and a half at least. So I think Chelsea would definitely be the favourites. But saying that, I don't think they'd be that much more favourable. I think it's more 50-50. Just because I feel like, for one, these Klopp sides have been here before. a lot of the time. Virtually every season, we're in the latter stages of some European competition. So I'd have Chelsea as favourites, probably to make the final.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is a massive opportunity for Chelsea. Get drawn against possibly the quote unquote weakest team in the draw in Porto, and then have to play one of Liverpool, who have been extremely out of form, or Real Madrid, who are just not what they were a couple of years ago, despite their victory against Liverpool.
Yeah.
I think it's a massive opportunity. I think they'll make the final, Chelsea.
Yeah. Do you think, Jack, where would you, let's say it is PSG in the final and you beat them, how would it rank in comparison to the 2012 final or the 2012 win?
See, it's hard to say. It'd have to be down to the way it happens, because obviously I'll talk more about like the special moments of Chelsea. But the fact that we had Barcelona, arguably they were the best team at that point with a Messi, and that was literally nearly at his peak. Their team was ridiculous, and we managed to get through in such a like incredible way. And then actually go to Bayern, go to Munich, and beat them in their own park. So it's all down to the road towards the final, and if we're just getting through against teams that are just completely out of form and that are just not up to their own standard. I don't know how much it's going to rank compared to the 2012 final, but as a Chelsea fan, you're always going to be completely amazed if we do manage to get it, considering all of the things that have happened at the start of the season with Lampard sacking, and us not having a great start to the season with all of our signings. So yeah, let's just wait and see. I'm not counting anything out. We could still get destroyed by Porto. So
well, if we come away from that game so that Jack can shut up about how his team are good. And before we get to the current state of my team, Max, 3-1 to Real Madrid. What?
Thanks for that.
What did you make of the game? I mean, this was Real Madrid a weird one to judge. I think we talked about this game, didn't we, a few weeks ago when we sort of predicted it. I can't remember exactly what you said, but I remember I vaguely said that I think Real Madrid would win or get a good draw kind of thing, but it would be that latter stage of the 3 Champions League Madrid where they were just somehow getting it done and you weren't actually sure how it happened.
Yeah.
But they played really well. It was a nice surprise. I think it's probably the best. Obviously, I don't watch La Liga, but I feel like it's some of the best football I've seen from them, especially in the first half. For a couple of years now. Big away goal for you. How did you feel about that game?
I mean, I thought Liverpool were pretty atrocious, but saying that, I mean, Madrid looked like you just said, that sort of team that just grinds out results in the Champions League in the latter stages. And the more we're talking about this, the more I'm leaning towards Madrid making the final now. But just because I feel like Kroos and Modric are just ridiculous to watch. The ball for the first goal, I know Nat Phillips got criticised for his body position, but the ball is ridiculous. It's a fantastic first goal. First half, we were awful and quite lucky to be down only 2-0, to be quite honest. Second half, we had about 15 minutes where we looked like we might bring it back to 2-2. We had that chance in the box, which Mendy cleared. But after that, again, it was a poor third goal to concede. I really feel like we could have got out there with 2-1. But it was poor positioning, poor marking from Phillips. And then, I mean, Alisson should be saving that. I don't care how close that is. He should be saving that. But he didn't. So it's 3-1. I mean, I think the only result we can really get is 2-0 in the second leg, because I don't see us scoring 3-4 goals and holding them to 1. So we can't. I don't think we can get into a sort of like a back and forth. And I think it will have to be a 2-0 win if we're going to go through. But I don't really see us going through at this point. with how badly it was striking to me how badly we played in probably our biggest game of the season.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't have much more to say on it.
I mean, isn't
Yeah.
that this? You say obviously you need 2 goals minimum.
Yeah.
Sort of stat. You need to win by 2 goals at Anfield, and you scored 1 goal there in 2021. So, I mean, we talk about omens with Chelsea, isn't it? It's in Istanbul, isn't it? The final this year. So
Yeah. Chelsea
yeah,
semi-final as well, possibly.
yeah. I mean, there's a lot
Yeah.
of narratives going around.
Yeah.
Jack, how? I mean, personally, I just think this game with crowds still on, without crowds, and the numerous injuries, I think it's dead in the water. I think Madrid, especially to get the 3rd goal, because like you said, you could have easily gone 2-0. I think Madrid just killed it. They were just so
Yeah.
sort of just efficient. Tony Kroos is just so good.
Yeah.
I think it's done. Do you think there's any hope for Liverpool in this one, Jack?
Well, yeah, like you said, it's hard to say whether or not if Liverpool can come back with all their injuries that they've had in defence. And I feel like if it's the other side and they've had injuries in attack, they could maybe grind out a result. But I don't see Madrid not scoring a goal against them with the amount of. It's not just the injuries as well; it's the defensive mistakes. Like when me and Sam watched that game together, and Trent was just woeful. Like his one-on-one defending, they picked it up on Jamie Carragher on was it BT Sport? The 2 wing backs at Liverpool they were terrible that game. So I see Real Madrid winning that game. I don't think Madrid's lost a game since like the end of January now, so they're on a really good run of form. Obviously La Liga's opened back up now, so they're in a bit of a title race with the other 2 big teams there. And taking into account Liverpool's record right now at Anfield, I don't give them any hope at the moment. But we've seen like crazier things happen in the Champions League. We're obviously going back to Liverpool versus Barca. Obviously a completely different narrative with fans and a different team, but at the same time, I don't see it happening for Liverpool. I think they're dead in the water, and I think Madrid, Chelsea semi is a pretty solid given.
Yeah, I mean, Max, we're going to talk about Arsenal Liverpool later on. We're definitely not talking about that now, but I've seen a lot online about obviously this Trent being omitted from the England squad caused shockwaves throughout the football community. People were outraged. There was this. I think there's a bit with Jamie Carragher and Gary Neville talking about it. I think Gary Neville said he wouldn't. He sees why basically, and Jamie Carragher was defending. But it's really sort of. I wouldn't say it split people. I think a lot of people just think it was dumb. But in the game against Arsenal, he gets an incredible assist, great cross. Everyone says, "You idiot! There's the proof. You should have picked him." And then a couple of days later, this game happens where he obviously made the mistake. I think he had a lot better second half, but did make a costly mistake. Do you think that's just shown the 2 sides of him, or do you think he is way more consistently the first example?
I think it has, unfortunately for him, displayed 2 sides of his game. The thing is with Trent, he was awful first half. I don't think anyone can deny that. Saying that, second half he played very, very well. Not just going forward, but he prevented, I think it was 2 clear-cut opportunities that probably would have ended up in a goal. I think one from Asensio and then one where Asensio and Vinicius were through 2-on-1, I think. He's very good. He's very good getting back basically on transition. But like you say, it varies so much with Trent. It wasn't a couple seasons ago, but this season especially, I think not having Van Dijk there, it's meant that he's got a lot more defensive responsibility on that side. And by not having Van Dijk there and no Joe Gomez, who he's used to playing with as well, there's always been someone new this season playing next to him. So I think it's shown. He needs to improve his one-on-one defending. I think that's clear. But I don't think he's having as bad a time as everyone is making out. This guy was rated as possibly the best right back in the world for about 2 years at
Yeah.
20 years old, and he's in an off year. And I'm sure he'll bounce back. I don't see why he wouldn't, especially when players that he's familiar playing with return next season. So, yeah, I don't. And Trent wasn't the only bad. I think he got highlighted because of the mistake for the second goal.
Yeah.
But he wasn't the only bad player out there. Virtually everyone was awful in the first half. And it was just him who made the clear-cut mistake. I think he's been a little vilified, but I can understand it.
You know, he was at such a level that it was I don't know if it's because he's a right back, but when you look at attacking young players like Mbappe and Haaland, I don't know, it's just to do with the style of their position, but like you remember that they're young. You're like, oh, this guy's still young, he's still getting better. For some reason, the fact he's a defender, I don't know, whatever the reason is, but you forgot he was that young at times. You were like, this guy is 27 in his prime, the best right back in the world. And it's like, what is he? He's 21 or 22? Like,
22.
It's insane. It's crazy. So I agree. I think it's the kind of thing, like, in a way, at least the potential problem he has is somewhat obvious that he can try and work on that. But yeah, I don't think Liverpool have anything to worry about. And I think having those defenders back will help. But just in terms of the Champions League, I do think this result was pretty big. And like you say, the performance in this game and what it meant this season. Now that, obviously results in the Premier League have sort of put top four back on the table for you a little bit. But it's just, I think even if you get, top four will probably save it a little bit, but it is going to be a disappointing season for you, whatever the reasons, to not sort of really challenge for anything after the season you had. Obviously, there's a lot of bad luck in there, but not what Liverpool needed. And yeah, no, it's not ideal. But what was ideal, well, wasn't really ideal, was Man City winning 2-1 against Dortmund.
Do we want to start with the Bellingham thing, or do we want to?
There's quite a lot. I have this conversation with my flatmate quite a lot, where we say, thing with Man City, they're great, but if you really think about it, right, as a neutral, when you check the games on the weekend, you don't care about the Man City games because you think, yeah, they'll win 3-0. You know what I mean? Like, you're like, oh, Arsenal might mess up. Liverpool versus Wolves, that'll be a good game. If you watch Man City against anyone other than the top six, you're kind of like, yeah, do I need to watch that? Like, once you've seen one, you've seen it all. But this Dortmund game had a lot. Haaland was probably one of the biggest stories going into it. Wasn't at his best, obviously didn't get a goal. We had Royce coming back. I don't really think there's a need to talk about the Bellingham moment, because I think we're all going to agree. I'd be very surprised if we don't agree that it was just a guaranteed should have been a goal.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, we talk about VAR all the time, but I don't understand that. I cannot work it out. It's such a clear, good tackle, even at first viewing. Was that was at 1-0, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know what to say about it. It should have counted.
The trouble is that we've just sort of come to like expect these type of things to happen from VAR because of how regular it happens. So people, when it happens, their mindsets of oh, it's crazy, like should be given. I can't believe that's not a goal and things like that. But then like a couple of days pass and you think, oh yeah, it's just another VAR blunder. Like it's just one of those things. But they don't really seem to be like taking accountability for these type of decisions that can ultimately decide a tie, because 2-1, obviously Dortmund are definitely not out of it whatsoever, and especially with the this morning's result of Leeds. But you never know, it could have been a completely different game after that decision.
Yeah, it seemed to me when I saw it get to 1-1 when Royce scored, it seemed like City were bottling it again. Obviously, Foden scored, but it really is set up for City to drop out again. I feel like it just depends whether they've got the ball.
Yeah. Do you think it's meant like it's all about mental strength, or like they've clearly got the ability to win these games they've lost in the Champions League?
Yeah.
Do you think it is a mentality thing, or do you think there's
course.
more to it?
Definitely mentality thing. They've got the quality to go all the way and win it, especially with teams like Liverpool aren't up to their standard of what they have been the last couple of years. They should have been odds-on favourite for this season going into Champions League, and they've sort of put themselves in a worrying position. And they should have killed this tie off at the very start. They should have focused on this one as being the main one, because they've obviously always had the possibility of bottling the second leg to lower opposition, and Dortmund have by no means been up to their standard too this season. So it's going to be an interesting second leg, and it'll be interesting to see if Guardiola can actually get through this one unscathed, because I feel like if they can get through this one, it'll be a big mentality boost for them going into the semis, and they probably could win it, but you never know. Haaland masterclass second leg. I'm calling it.
Do you think this is the hardest one to predict of the rest, or?
Yeah, I think it's the hardest one. You look at PSG Bayern, and it is. You could call a favourite for most of the games apart from the City Dortmund game. The bookies will probably have City, but everyone as a football fan knows the level in which Dortmund can turn up and spoil the night. So I'm definitely going to look out for that one.
Yeah, no, I think Dortmund obviously didn't have his best game, but Haaland is such an X factor. Like, it's unbelievable the impact he can have in a game. I remember round before, I think he got disallowed in the end, but where he's just running alongside the defender and then just pushes him over with his shoulder, carries on and scores. He's so quick,
he's
strong,
amazing.
Yeah,
I just hope that Chelsea can sort of pursue him this season, because Werner, as much as you want to give him the amount of time, I feel like his confidence is in the mud, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. Whereas a player as young as Haaland is, with the experience he's already got, I feel like he could definitely take us to another level.
Yeah, I think wherever he goes, they're just going to go up a notch. And I think for the Premier League's sake, I think it could be Man City. And I just think if it is, you could be looking at like 5 titles in 6 or 7 years. Like, it would just be insane. So are you going to go all out then and say you think Dortmund can progress from this one?
I think so. I think my prediction will be Dortmund to maybe get a 1-0 win. It's dependent on Man City taking their chances, but I think Dortmund could sneak a win in there and have a big upset there.
What are you saying, Max?
I think City will go through. I just think they're too strong for Dortmund, to be honest, and I think I don't see City not scoring for one.
Yeah.
So I think if City go out, I feel like it's going to go to extra time.
I was going to say that.
Whether that goes to penalties or not, but I don't feel like it's going to get settled in the 90 if City were to go out. That's why I think as much as I may think City slightly bottled the first leg, I just think they're too strong for Dortmund, to be honest. So I have City going through in that tie.
I was going to say the exact same thing about extra time being the only way they could lose, but I'm going to change my mind and I'm going to say Dortmund are going to win 3-1.
Bold.
We're filming this. You mentioned a minute ago, Jack. We're recording this on Saturday after the games, and Leeds have just won at Man City with 2 shots on target and 10 men. And obviously, those kind of games can happen and they won't influence anything, but just seems like Man City are wobbling as they tend to do at this part of the season. Like they it's this thing we talk about a lot with other leagues like Germany and Italy and maybe Spain already, but France especially, where we say like maybe PSG win the league and then just slow down and then they cannot get it back up for the Champions League. Maybe that's happening with Man City. I mean, there's been a lot of times where they've been clear and then stumbled someone you'd expect them to beat. And then someone alongside that, when they have had seasons where they've been up for it with Liverpool, they've then just crumbled under the pressure of another big game in a busy schedule. So I just feel like for Man City, it's just there's something about them. And obviously that has to break at some point, but I don't think it's going to break this season.
I think this weekend is key for confidence for obviously next week being the second legs and Man City having a shock loss to Leeds. Who knows what that could do to their confidence going into that game. I think Liverpool are playing Villa as we speak now. So, and obviously we all know what happened last time they played. So you never know. I feel like this weekend could be key to decide the ties. But yeah, I think Dortmund will sneak a win there. I don't think Man City have got the bottle.
Wow. Well, we will watch on very keenly to all those Champions League games, as everyone will. Max got the call of the round last time with that Porto win. And I'm going to be right this time with Dortmund. You heard it here first.
So what are our semi-final picks?
Dortmund. Is it Dortmund? Yeah, Dortmund, PSG.
Mm-hmm.
And then Real Madrid, Chelsea.
Okay, Jack.
Yeah, exactly the same. I feel. Can't see any other way.
I'm going Madrid, Chelsea, and I think City, Bayern.
Blimey.
Not picking his own team.
Yeah, I'm going Liverpool, Porto, and then Dortmund, Bayern. No, yeah, I mean, it's the Champions League. Anything can happen. That's why we love it. But a bigger competition, a better competition, the Europa League. Great win for Man United. Great win for Roma. That was actually a really good win. I was expecting Ajax to take that. Credit to them. Villarreal won, I think, Unai Emery, and that's all the games. So
I'm sure there were 4.
I mean, if we so for those who don't know, Arsenal lost 3-0 to Liverpool last weekend. And then we just drew with Slavia Prague. And I don't know if you guys watched it, but it was awful. I don't know. There's a lot of Arteta out going around, which I don't agree with. Like I don't I don't think anyone can fix it. But if you didn't watch the game, it's a weird one because it wasn't our worst performance of the season by quite a long way. Like Liverpool on the weekend, obviously we lost that game, but the actual performance was so weird. Like we just didn't try, or it looked that way anyway. But this game, we weren't at it at all, but we had about 3 sort of they should be goal moments. Saka missed a really good chance. Aubameyang missed one as he came on, and I don't know if I assume you've seen the Lacazette one.
Yeah.
Which I don't know. I think the worst part about it is that when he tackles the guy and goes for a goal, he's got the whole half to himself. One, he looks like he's running through treacle, and this guy's catching him. But 2, I never had confidence he was scoring. The whole time you were just like, doesn't look right. This doesn't look normal. And he sort of scoots onto the bar. And then, yeah, he does the subs, which a lot of people are a bit unhappy with how late they were. And Pepe, really good goal. Looks like it's done. And then they score a corner at the end. And, like, I don't know if you've seen, but it was literally Cedric on the ball, I think. A minute left, no pressure. Turns around and gives it to Gabriel, who gives away the corner. Like, things are just a mess right now. It's really bad. I really am falling out of love with football, as they say. But I mean, I don't know. I really don't know where to go with Arsenal at the moment. I'm definitely not Arteta out, but I'm also not like he's the one. But I don't know if you guys have seen. Have you seen the news about Balogun that came out yesterday?
Yeah.
I have
So
not.
he literally it was the morning after the game. Obviously, Balogun all season he's out of contract in the summer, linked with all these articles are saying he's linked with 15 clubs. There's like Liverpool in there. I think Sheffield United made an actual bid. There's Leipzig, Leverkusen, and he has just signed. He's set to sign a contract, 4-year contract. And I think it's a great bit of news, but he scored 1 goal in the Europa League coming off the bench. And like, yeah, he's done all this stuff under 23s, but I think people are almost like, oh, this is the guy. We're saved. And I just think like we're at, like this is a low point for Arsenal among many. I think that finishing performance last night just meant the club had to pay Balogun whatever he wanted. And we don't even know how good he is. Apparently, Nketiah is on the way out in the summer. So apparently, next season it's looking like we're going to have Balogun, Martinelli, Saka, Saliba. We're going to have the average age of about 12. So I just think, I don't know, obviously, how much you guys are sort of into following Arsenal at the moment. I just don't think anyone could fix the problem with. I think the squad is just a mess.
Go ahead, Max.
Someone's at the door. No one else is in. Sorry. Give me just.
Oh, that's all right.
1 second.
Yeah, it's cool.
Oh, Solo, I've got a question for you.
Yeah, that's cool.
My question to you is,
Yeah.
given the position that Arsenal are in right now, so I think you're 11th, is it?
It's 11th or 10th.
How high do you see yourself finishing up the table, and do you think that position warrants Arteta out?
How high do I think we'll finish from now?
Like from now to the end of the season, how high do you think you can finish in the table? And that position, do you feel that warrants an Arteta out?
The highest we can finish, in my opinion, is 9th. We're 5 points off Everton in 7th, and Everton have a game in hand. So I'm going to say that the highest we can finish is 9th, which is terrifying. And I don't think there's any. I genuinely think the only way he would have got sacked this season is relegation form. Ooh. I think this is the thing that obviously a lot of clubs have this roundabout of managers, like in the sort of modern era, and there is just no opportunity to build a club. And I think it's difficult because when you talk in this way, especially if you look online, people will say like, "How are you backing Arteta? He's shown nothing, or there's no sort of plan in place." But it's not even to say I'm backing Arteta, but if you can't give him more than a year, especially if you add in that he won an FA Cup, obviously it can be a bit of a red herring. But if you're not going to give him 2-3 years, especially if you're not a Man City or a Chelsea at times with how much money they spend, like what is he going to do? I think I saw apparently he's had about 80 million in 3 windows spent, which is Partey, who's been injured most of the year, which was out of nowhere as well. He's never injured before that. And Gabriel, and the rest are literally like loans, free signings of Willian and Cedric. So like,
yeah, and it's a very small like lump sum if you think about how much transfers are and how much teams spend in nowadays market.
Yeah,
to spend that much in such a big club.
Obviously, that is affected by the pandemic and things like that. But I think there is no point if you sack him now. What difference is there from when we got him a year ago or however long ago? Do you know what I mean? I don't think as well. I don't think there's a chance he will. I think our board are behind him. I think they've backed this project, and I think basically they've backed the project, and people are just sort of questioning what the project is. I think that's the most worrying thing I would say is, and I've heard a lot of people talking about this, and I think you get this at any club. Like I think this is the thing with Liverpool and why they're so successful is their plan is so rigid and it's the same 90% of the time. And it's that classic, I think Wenger used to talk about when he was like, we're just going to play this way, even if it doesn't work.
Yeah.
whatever that way is, whether it's good for like Arsene Wenger passing football, Liverpool's press and energy, Man City just passing teams to death. It is bizarre how much having an identity matters. People sort of take the mick out of the West Ham way, and even like Burnley, you know what you're getting and it works. They've been one of the most solid teams to come up into the Prem, and I genuinely think Sean Dyche and his way of playing is such a big part of that. And I think that's the worry, is that when you look at this team, and this is the point I got to with Unai Emery, and admittedly, I'm probably being a lot less harsh on Arteta because I effectively saw this, and that was what made me want him gone, is that I couldn't tell you what our style of play is. I couldn't tell you what the plan is.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think he has to have, if next season come January we're still 11th, 12th, whatever, then I think like the conversation has to be had, especially if we sign people this window. But I mean, this window, it's looking like Odegaard's not going to be back. A couple of players are going to be moving on, like Nketiah and things. Like, I feel like I think apparently we're going to be getting rid of Bellerin and getting a right back, and it's like, I don't think Bellerin is the one, but you're kind of dealing with a part of the team that isn't necessarily the primary weakness, I don't think. So I just think our squad is way off. Our board, everyone knows the issues with the board, like many clubs in the league. I don't think we're winning the league or the Champions League for a long time. And I'm just kind of used to that. And, it's a fun life. literally born. We're winning the league. We're doing the Invincibles. I become aware. And then we're like, all right, let's stop playing now. So Arsenal is a complete mess. It's going pretty well for both of you. Obviously, Liverpool this week wasn't the best result, but it's fair to say you're having a good time with it, Max.
Yeah, we're not Arsenal. That's good.
Yeah, exactly. So let's all just have fun and laugh at Arsenal. So that wraps up the first section or so, which turned into a bit of a therapy session, apparently. But yeah, so should we just jump? Let's turn the attention onto our guest. We have Jack with us, Chelsea fan, as we have talked about a lot. Max, shall we hit him with the first question?
Yes. So, what is your first memory of football? Whether that's for your club, which is Chelsea, or not?
Right, I've taken a lot of time to think about this one because when I sort of try and think of my first memory, it all sort of intertwines into like 3 or 4 different moments. And then you try and struggle to pick like which one's the earliest and which one should I say. But I think I'm gonna go with the Euro final 2008. I think it was Spain versus Germany, and it was when Torres scored and Spain won. I think it was their first like start where they won that, and then they won the World Cup, and they were arguably like the best national team ever. That's the first real moment I can remember sitting in front of a TV and actually watching. But I've got a few sort of like when I was thinking about the question, I was thinking of like Chelsea moments. Yeah. So the first Chelsea moment I had, like my first memory of a Chelsea moment was the 2009 FA Cup final. It was Chelsea versus Portsmouth. What a fall from grace Portsmouth have had. Let's just say that. But yeah, Euro final, Torres. That's my first.
See, I don't remember watching. I don't remember the Euros. I think my first national team memory was the 2010 World Cup, which is interesting because I remembered the 2005 Champions League final.
Literally feel the same, but it was the final. The only thing I caught from the whole Euros was the final. I couldn't even tell you what happened in that whole Euros, but the final I can tell you.
Do you have any memories from that, Max?
Yeah, I do remember quite a lot of Euro 2008, especially the final, Torres' little dink to win it. I remember Turkey doing very, very well. I think they made the semi-finals that year.
I believe England didn't even qualify. Is that right?
Yeah.
Or am I completely making that up?
That's shambles. But yeah, it's probably, I mean, the earliest international tournament I can remember was 2006, because I remember watching.
I remember the headbutt, to be fair.
I remember England. Yeah, Zidane's headbutt.
Yeah.
I've got a lot of memories from the World Cup, but I like to say that the first time I can remember actually watching it like live, it
Yeah.
would probably have to be the 2008 final. But obviously, I remember like everything that happened in the
Yeah.
2006 World Cup.
I mean, you bring up the Torres goal in that game. Chelsea and
Mhm.
Liverpool fan can't not be spoken about. How excited were you, if you remember, sort of the time when you got Torres, and how much of a shock was it that what entailed?
What for me, for Chelsea?
Yeah, for Torres joining Chelsea.
So, well, that's the thing. He was absolutely incredible at Liverpool, like up there, one of the top players in the world. And he came to us like it was quite a hefty fee as well. I think it was it like 50 million?
Yeah, it
I
was
think
I
it
can't
was
remember.
50.
For that time was quite like arguably very, very big.
Yeah.
So it was a big sort of money buy, which is like what started off this Chelsea obsession with spending so much money on a singular player. And it just didn't work out at all. It's sort of started this Chelsea curse of strikers since then, where we've tried to pick a world-class striker from another team and they come in and they're just not what they were. We've had it with Morata, Werner. I mean, Diego Costa is probably one of the only ones I can think like recently that was
Yeah.
actually lived up to his ability, should I say? But it was a horrendous experience until that night.
Yeah. Max, what about the other side of the coin? I don't think I've ever really spoken to a Liverpool fan about how they view him.
What about Torres?
Yeah.
Um, I think it's hard with Torres because at the time we were in and around sort of that. We were kind of like in a similar position to where we are now in the Champions League. Chelsea are in the Champions League as well, and we were doing quite well from about 2006 to 2009. And then, what year did he move? Was it 2010 or 2009?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, but
I
anyway,
think it was around then anyway.
yeah, I think it was in the middle of one of our poorer seasons. It might have been the same season that Benitez left. So I don't really blame him for going because Chelsea were one of the, I mean, they were like a machine around that time. But I do feel like sometimes people have a little too much respect. He was only there for about 2 or 3 years. And he did just jump boat for one of our main rivals, possibly our biggest rival at the time.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a little too much respect considering he did that. But at the same time, I mean, he didn't actually win anything under us. So
Yeah.
he wanted to go win. I can't blame a man for wanting to go somewhere else if he wants to win trophies. That's what sport's about. So I can see it from both sides of the coin, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, we talk about him jumping ship, what you said about 3 years.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys have seen, there's this news story today about Harry Kane is going to supposedly ask to leave this summer if they don't get top four.
Mhm.
And,
I did see that, yes.
But then I think a lot of the articles basically suggested that it's probably not going to happen. Even if he asks, there's just no way it will happen with the money involved, and he's got like 4 years left on his contract or something crazy. But he's been there since he's been at his peak. He's probably been there about 5 years now, maybe even 6. I'm not sure. Do you think he's missed the boat? Because I mean, if he does miss a transfer this summer, say the price is too much in this sort of pandemic market, do you think this is his chance? Do you think he's already missed his chance to leave sort of at his very best to win things? But I'll go to Jack first.
I don't think it's too late at all for a player like him. Like the numbers that he's putting up in arguably the hardest league to put up numbers, and so consistently with it that I feel like any team will be looking at him, thinking any money will be put aside to try and get him, especially the top teams. It's just dependent on the bigger clubs with the bigger budgets that need him, because obviously with Chelsea there's always that thing of our London rivals and probably wouldn't come here, but we are looking for a striker. So it it'd be a hard one to decide. I think that they'd be he'd be smart, sorry, in leaving now while he's ahead, because obviously it's Tottenham. But yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, it's kind of insane how good he is, and
I
how
just
he's
got
went up.
distracted for a second there as I just saw Aston Villa have just scored against Liverpool.
What? No
Ollie
way, he scored.
Watkins, the
Man,
Western
slow
boy.
reaction to that one.
If it's Ollie, then I'll give it a pass.
Oh yeah, he's an extra boy as well.
Oh yeah.
Western Superman boy, extra boy. But yeah, I like a bit of soccer Saturday for you there, everyone.
This game just like every other game I've watched for the past 5 months. Dominating the ball, but can't stick it in the back of the net.
That's what
I'm
Liverpool
following
are
up
about
people.
nowadays.
So yeah.
I thought I'd just add that because obviously the whole Liverpool against Real Madrid saga, this might just
Yeah.
take a bad turn for him.
I mean, yeah.
Oh dear.
So if we move on to the second question, Jack, what's your favourite moment as a Chelsea fan? And we've had a Chelsea fan on recently, and we obviously all know that you do have a particular peak as a football club. Is your favourite moment that moment?
Well, I've got it written down as my favourite moment, obviously. Like, if you're a Chelsea fan and you don't put that moment, then you're just lying to yourself, because if you sat and watched that match, knowing where we came from that season, I think we finished like 10th in the Prem that season. But were at least very far down, not even contending. I think we also we won the FA Cup that season, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I've got it written down. I want to say the final, just because of obviously it being in Munich and the way it happened with a last minute Drogba header, the penalty save, and then obviously beating the Germans on penalties. Like, you can't really write a better story than that. I also want to take into consideration the semi-final against Barca, both legs as well. Both legs were incredible. Everyone's obviously going to focus on the second leg and the Torres goal.
Yeah, see, this is where I don't like it. This Torres goal, good goal, great moment. So overlooks the Ramirez goal.
Trust me.
It's so
Trust
good.
me. The
It's
disrespect on that bloke's name.
Yeah.
Because
what a
no one
player he
remembers
was.
it.
One of my favourite goals ever.
It's just incredible. Like,
It's so good.
how that's like, well, like the comparison, that is nearly like Kante going through and doing that.
Yeah. He
It's
was
just crazy.
what a player. I mean, he wasn't a sort of joke, but he almost became more known, I reckon, to a lot of people for how on FIFA he was really he had like 88 pace.
It's just an engine, mate.
Yeah, he's just complete engine, but he was technically so good.
It's crazy to look back and think like that, because you think, he's gonna be just like a runner and like someone who can just sort of run, grab the ball and like pay you through. But on the ball, he was brilliant, and I feel like he was so underrated to a lot of people. And like, as a Chelsea fan, you can actually look back and admire it, because he's given us some amazing moments, and that goal that he scored against Barca just tops it. Like that is up there.
I remember hearing someone asking a question, I can't remember what it was for, but they were saying at Arsenal, obviously we've got Edu now, is like mainly in charge of our transfers. And they were saying he's got us Martinelli, which is brilliant because he was completely unknown. But should he sort of be able to find another? I mean, there's such a long line of Brazilian midfielders who are just there. There's the stereotypical Brazilian skill player, Ronaldinho, but there's also the hard man in midfield. Ramirez, Fabinho now, Fernandinho, Gilberto Silva for the Invincibles. And I just think if we could get a player like Ramirez or one of those names to go alongside Partey, it should be so good.
Well, you say that. You say that, and I think this morning when I was on Twitter, and something came up saying like, Edu's found his replacement for Odegaard when at the end of the season, like discovered a release clause, and it was, I'm pretty sure they said it was a Brazilian midfielder. I think he was 19, Plays for starts with an F in the Brazilian league.
Oh,
It's one of them. I think it's not Flamengo. It's the other one. It's like
the Fluminense
Fluminense.
one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that one. And apparently he's like been brilliant for them. He's really young, and he's got a release clause that is arguably quite low for like an upcoming talent.
Yeah.
So when we talk about saying hopefully you can try and find one of
Maybe
these
he
Brazilian
will. I mean,
stars, they're quite
Martinelli's
heavily linked.
such a good. Like, obviously, you've got all the Saka, Mount, Foden, all those debates, which are all fair. Greenwood. The thing with Martinelli that I think is so impressive is just the fact that he was actually sort of scouted and found from another country. It wasn't just he was in the academy. I think
Yeah.
that is like some of our transfer strategy has been poor, but that is a find. I'm pretty sure he was in like the 3rd tier in Brazil.
That is crazy. He's got so much potential.
Yeah. But yeah, if we move on, I always forget the third. Oh yeah, third question. I think see at first a lot of people came on and said they found the 4th question the hardest, the player you wish you signed. Now there's a bit of a swing and people are starting to say this one's difficult. What would you say is your favourite moment in football, that from a neutral point of view, not Chelsea?
I don't think I could purely decide on one. It's between two, and I have to say two because like one of them is so generic and is like, oh, everyone's going to pick it because it's a neutral fan. Obviously, the Trippier free kick from the World Cup. I think every English fan, probably even neutrals, seeing the English fans cheer that one. I think everyone's going to remember exactly where and when they were when that happened and the feeling that they had. That was the first moment that we had of pure hope when we got against a team that was arguably better than us. When we hadn't really had a challenge other than Belgium, but we sort of just sat down to them. So when it got to that moment so early on in the game, it was an absolutely incredible emotion. But yeah, the second one that I sort of wanted to put up there as well was the Iniesta World Cup goal.
Oh yeah,
that's a great shout.
Yeah,
I can put my differences aside with obviously what he did against Chelsea, but yeah, I remember like sitting there watching that game and going crazy because I was sort of trying to support Spain through the latter stages of how good their team was, and when that goal went in, it's just an incredible goal. He's an incredible player.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's just in terms of they both 1-0s and they were somewhat similar goals. I feel like the Goetze one gets sort of considered. People try to bring that up, but I don't know why it is. Maybe just because Iniesta's such an iconic player, but that 2010 goal just stands out for me.
I can't put the Goetze goal up there. I was rooting so hard for Argentina there for Messi. I could not. I was depressed, if anything, when that Goetze goal went in.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? As soon as your team goes out of the World Cup, you're so quickly like, okay, this is my team now. I want them to win it. But
it's weird.
Goal,
I celebrated that Iniesta goal as if it was like an England goal, which is just so strange. Yeah. But I guess it was just a narrative behind it and how good that Spain team was. It was just so exciting with David Villa and Torres in that World Cup. They were absolutely amazing.
Yeah. That final though as well. I mean, obviously the logo for this comes from that, the De Jong,
the kick.
Xabi Alonso. I mean, that game, let alone that one, so many bookings and like huge.
Can you imagine VAR in that game now?
Yeah, it'd be awful. But yeah, that game and that moment, I reckon it's up there. For
I can't say anything other than Trippier like as my top favorite moment from a neutral, even though I wasn't a neutral, but you know what I mean.
We've had so many people talk about the 2018 World Cup. I guess it's like, and like you said, it's the moment everyone hoped. And like when you're, I mean, obviously you're a Chelsea fan, you're no stranger to winning things. But I mean, how often do you have a lot of Chelsea fans or the team you support in your friend group? I guess like if you live in the area, you probably will. But you're probably half the time you're just arguing with your mates about why you're better or why they're worse with club football. But with England, it's like the one time everyone is just
Oh, everyone
You'll
comes
want this.
together. There's no
Yeah,
rivalries.
it's so
Everyone
good.
loves Slabhead, and then once the tournament finishes, everyone goes back to hating Man United and all the other teams like that. So
See, I'm
that's
interested to see the next World Cup, the Maguire reputation, because he was like, I mean, I don't think, I reckon he was loved. I reckon you could.
I think
reckon
he
you could.
was.
Yeah, I don't think that's wrong to say.
I don't think anybody had any criticism. He was actually pretty good for us
Yeah,
in the tournament, and obviously had that goal against Sweden as well. So I can't think of a player that was actually like properly criticised from like rival fans. I think everyone was
yeah,
sort of just hoping that it came home and was supporting no matter what, which is kind of crazy because of the huge rivalries we've got now in Premier League and how like, especially this season alone, with how like competitive it's been in the race for top four. That could be interesting to see how it develops through the Euros.
yeah,
With this discussion that we've got about our young English midfielders. Just hope Mount's
yeah,
there.
yeah. I mean, obviously Southgate. We talk about England all the time. Southgate gets a lot of criticism, but I do not feel for him. But it is so hard to pick 11 from the squad pool we have right now. There's so many options you could go for.
Yeah.
And I think even if we won it, people would still disagree with him. We could win it and they'll be like, oh, you should have played Grealish.
We would have won it more comfortably.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that is one hell of a moment. I would honestly probably say that's the answer to that question I've heard that I've like agreed with most when I've heard it. The Iniesta goal specifically. I think everyone agrees with the Trippier goal that listens to this anyway. But yeah, that Iniesta goal for me, wow. That is like on a border with my one, which was the Messi Bayern goal. But yeah, if we jump into the last question then, which as I said, some people do struggle with in Chelsea. I mentioned this with the last Chelsea fan we had on. You buy half the players under the sun. So there's not many on the wish list, I imagine. But who would be the one player you wish Chelsea signed now or in the past?
Well, the one I've got down is very out there, but I feel like it sort of makes sense in the way that I'm going to explain it. I'm going to go for Leroy Sané.
What?
Yeah,
When? I
Really?
mean,
17-18 Leroy Sané.
Were you linked that heavily?
I don't know so much as being
is
linked,
this when he was
but
at
I know
Schalke
that
or was he at Man City?
no, he was. This was the Centurions
Yeah.
season, I
I
think.
mean, as an individual player, I fully agree.
And
It's
in
such a
hindsight,
shout.
knowing that Hazard was leaving at the end of the next season,
Yeah.
we
I
sort of
mean,
needed that replacement that we'd never
I
really
feel
replaced
like
properly.
obviously he's now moved on to Bayern, but there were always rumblings he could leave. So I don't think it would have ever been out of the question. And like we sort of say, there is someone drilling downstairs, which is really well. But yeah, we talk about when we ask this question. Sorry, I tried to sort of say it doesn't have to be realistic, but naturally people lean into that. I don't think it's too crazy at all to think Chelsea could have got him. So I think,
No,
yeah,
I don't think
it's a
it's
great shout.
crazy. I just feel like in terms of like with Hazard leaving, I think it was the season before that he was like incredible. I looked at it and it was like he got 10 goals and 15 assists with at the age that he was at then. That was before his big injury. And I just remember watching Man City that season and him especially thinking like this is incredible and he's gonna be like one of the top players. And I feel like that injury just completely ruined him, which is the sad thing. But yeah, I thought like in terms of Hazard leaving, that would be like the best replacement we could have gotten in hindsight. If we knew that was going to happen with his contract and things like that, then maybe we should have gone for him. But yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean the goal. I remember the game against Liverpool, Man City that he won in the. I think that's the season where it was really close.
yeah,
It was just like he like really did make the difference beyond just scoring the goal. He just looked so good in that game. But yeah, I mean that's a great set of answers. Good Champions League chat.
thank you very much for listening. We'll be back next week. I'm not sure what day. What day do you reckon we'll be recording
I
next?
don't know. It will be next week, and the guy's drilling again.
It adds to the atmosphere. Lovely. But thank you very much for listening. We're on Spotify, YouTube, so make sure you subscribe and listen on all the platforms. Will we have a poll this week?
Yeah, I'll try put some polls up for the Champions League games next week.
Cool.
So
We'll
get involved with that.
them out. Make sure you vote for them. Make sure you share because it helps, and any suggestions are always welcome. So thank you very much for listening, and thank you to Jack for coming on.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.